significance, compelling, urgent, overwhelming, spiritual significance to all three of these realms. And so that the culmination of spiritual practice, spiritual realization, would have to bring about an integration in our participation in these three realms. And this becomes particularly compelling and urgent. What becomes particularly compelling and urgent for us today is to give deeper regard, ultimate regard, to the sentient domain and the natural domain. But not treating them in isolation, separation from the transcendent domain. This is where I have my own understanding differs, I think, significantly from mainstream socially engaged Buddhism, which the way I see it almost dismisses the transcendent domain or reinterprets it in such a way that it becomes just something which is imposed or worked out through human understanding in the sentient domain. But I take this transcendent domain to be something real, in a sense, but it's a reality which is not only to be aspired to and realized, but which is also to be brought down, in a sense, and embodied, actualized in the midst of the sentient domain, and whatever principles can be derived from it also have to be actualized in the natural domain. And so this, coming to more concrete and practical implications, this means that using this model as a mode of guideline to understanding, that we regard other sentient beings as being, especially as human beings, we regard other human beings as being worthy of ultimate respect, ultimate consideration, ultimate concern. Generally, I feel very hesitant to use the word compassion because I think it's a word that's become so overused that it's almost like with drinking water, one doesn't taste any flavor anymore. Though, just as the water is essential for life, so compassion is essential for spirituality. But maybe I like the Pali word, not karuna, but anukampa, which is also translated compassion, but it means literally, kampa is to shake, and anu is with. So it's empathic, empathetic, shaking, the quality that makes the mind or heart of the good person shake with the suffering of others. And so, when we have this quality of anukampa, then we are ready to do whatever work we have to undertake in order to help, assist, benefit those who are afflicted with injustice, with poverty, with misery, with ignorance, who are excluded, who are considered disposable, insignificant, unworthy by the dominant powers within our world and our culture. And so one sort of compelling obligation or responsibility coming out from the urge for transcendent realization is to look after the domain of sentient beings. I say it's particularly human beings, but also we have to bring in the animal realm. Because the human treatment of animals today, I mean, if you ever look at videos put up by PETA,
Ethical treatment of animals,
people for the ethical treatment of animals, or Natural Resources Defense Fund. It'll really break your heart. We just treat animals as being, I wouldn't even treat a cup. I wouldn't break cups or throw cups or I don't even like to throw away used ballpoint pens, but we treat animals worse than school children will treat a used up ballpoint pen. So millions and millions are just grown in these factory farms without any concern for their comfort, for their well-being, and as soon as they're big enough to be slaughtered, they're slaughtered in mass. So we have to benefit and help both human beings and the animals. And then what's particularly urgent is care for the natural domain, because all of life unfolds within the natural domain, whether it be every country in the world is enfolded by the natural domain. And yet what we see today is, it's almost incomprehensible to me how those people in positions of power within the corporations, especially the fossil fuel corporations, will do everything they can, fossil fuels, coal, gas, oil, do everything they can to obscure the truth, the compelling reality of global warming, holding these phony conferences, the International Conference on Climate Change, sponsored by one organization. They bring together 500 people, they call them scientists, who testify that global warming is not such an urgent problem, that those who report about it are being unnecessarily alarmist. I think in Germany you don't have this problem at all. People always recognize global warming as being real. But in America, the powers, the head of these corporations, together with their henchmen, the politicians, on one side the politicians, on the other side the mainstream media, do everything they can to obstruct and obscure the reality of how we are destroying the natural base for human civilization on Earth. And so this also becomes what I would call a sacred or spiritual obligation for us today. Okay, I said that my ideas are still rather undefined and rather sketchy, so maybe I'll just stop the presentation here without trying to go into more detail. And just if there's anybody has any questions, comments, please feel welcome to speak.
I just had a thought. I was speaking today with some of the other members here about the possibility of BGR, and again, it's probably spreading too thin, but getting involved in environmental causes of some kind. That has come up lately in my...
I think that would be spreading the mission of Buddhist Global